Hey everyone, today I will run through how to complete your Bodevity Assessment. The Bodevity Assessment consists of 5 mobility exercises and 5 strength exercises. Each exercise is to be completed in 2 repetitions. Posture Assessment. Start in your neutral posture and let your head and shoulders roll forward. From there, we are going to start with the shoulders by pulling the shoulders backwards. Next, you're going to tuck the chin to make a double chin. Third, you're going to create a backwards tilt or a posterior tilt of the shoulder blade. Hold this position and take 2 deep breath cycles. And then return to your neutral position. Thoracic Extension Assessment. Start by putting your arms above your head with your hands gently touching your ears. Have your arm and your elbow in the same plane as your shoulder blade, so trying not to pull your arm too far backwards or having it too far forwards. Same plane. Start by flexing through your mid-back region and then extending through your mid-back region. That's 1 repetition, and then completing 1 more repetition. And back to neutral. Trying not to compensate with arm movement and only moving through your mid-back region. 1 more repetition. Into flexion, and then into as much extension as you can until it stops, and back to neutral. Focusing on your breath cycle and not holding your breath throughout the movement. Hip rotation assessment, starting with internal rotation, trying to keep the kneecap stationary the entire movement. Start by bringing your foot away from midline and back to the starting position, preventing your knee from moving inwards or outwards and having the rotation begin and start with your hip bone. So 2 repetitions would look like next is hip external rotation. Start by moving the other leg out of the way, so bringing the foot forward. The rotation is happening in the left hip bone, so again we're trying to keep the kneecap as stationary as possible. Bringing the foot into the midline and then back to neutral. So 2 repetitions would look like knee over toe ankle assessment. Start with the toes facing forward and the heels pointing directly backwards. You're going to bring your kneecap over top of the middle toe and then return to your start position, making sure not to lift the heel off of the ground. 2 repetitions would look like this. Push-up assessment. Start position. Push-up can be done from the knees or the feet, whatever you're comfortable with. Starting by finding a neutral pelvis position by tucking your tailbone underneath and keeping your shoulder blades somewhat pulled back. Descend or drop your chest down to the ground in 2 seconds and then return to your start position in 1 second. Repeat 2 repetitions to complete the assessment. Start position. Have your forehead rest on your forearms. Find your neutral pelvis position. So start by tucking your tailbone as far down as you can, and then point the tailbone as far up to the ceiling as you can. Somewhere in the middle of that position will be your neutral pelvis. Take a deep breath into your lower abdominals and firm up your core prior to moving the leg. The leg will lift as high as you comfortably can lift, and breathe out on the way up and breathe in on the way down. Performing 2 repetitions. Trying to move through the hip and not through the back. So keeping this hip bone glued to the ground is necessary. A compensation where you would use your low back and lift your hip off the ground would look like that. And that's something we're trying to avoid. Banded shoulder external rotation assessment. Start with your posture check. So tucking your chin and pulling your shoulder blades back and also tilting them back. Face the camera. Start with your elbows at your side, bent to 90 degrees. Start position is here. End by pulling your fists apart and returning to the start position. Out in 1 second and then returning to the start in 2 seconds. Performing 2 repetitions to complete this assessment. A fault for this exercise would be when the elbows lift off of the side, or if you were to lose any of your posture points. Squat assessment. Start with posture check. So chin tuck, shoulder blades tilted backwards, and neutral pelvis. Start by bringing your hips backwards and bending your knee. Hands out in front. Once your hip bone gets below the horizontal, that's the end, and then you can go back to the start position. Another repetition. Trying to make sure the knee doesn't drive forward too much, and then back to the start position. Completing 2 repetitions to complete the assessment. Trying to keep your knee as steady as possible and preventing it from wiggling in or out and back to the start position.